That's what it is. But my list of videos, I have videos that I was supposed to drop like 2 or 3 days ago or something, and I'm just getting them out of the way. So this is a real quick one. I don't think I'm gonna spend more than 5 or 6 minutes on it. Why corruption is good. This is a C4 sermon. I always say this. Let me just hit our main points. First and foremost, this is a Christian church based on civilization creation. We are about creating civilization, not going to heaven, not praying to Jesus. We don't care about that because that's not important at all to us. We understand that truth is contextual, and for that reason, truth cannot exist outside of the context in which you are subscribing. So if you say Jesus Christ is Lord to another Jesus Christ is Lord Christian, that's truth among you guys. But if you say that in the middle of a forest to a tiger, it's bullshit. And you just, you know, made yourself a meal for a tiger. And so if it's a man-eating tiger. And so anyway, we understand that truth does not exist outside of context. However, there's an objective reality. An objective morality does exist, and that is determined by actual verifiable, testable reality, not by a nebulous, transcendent truth that doesn't exist. Um, we understand that humanity is not civilized. Excuse me, the people of Earth, humanity is civilized, but the people of Earth are not civilized, and it's highly probable the people of Earth are not human. It's just too much evidence for that. Uh, and then we also make it very clear that the Bible is not literal. There's nothing historical or actual that ever occurred in the Bible. The Bible is a pagan compilation that was perverted, distorted, and appropriated by the Romans 2,000 years ago, give or take a couple of centuries. And the Romans have been the basis of Christianity since. The most coherent forms of Christianity in the mainstream are Ethiopian Orthodox and Coptic churches, the other Coptic and the Orthodox churches in the Middle East, and subsequent to that would be the Orthodox churches of Europe. Subsequent to that would be the Catholics. So if you want to call yourself a Christian and you want to go mainstream, I would recommend you join one of those churches because they don't read the Bible literally. They know Jesus is not actually God. And you know, the charismatics, I would say stay away from them if you want to be coherent, if you want to move to the future, especially with all the technological advances that are taking place in the species. So let's get right into why corruption is good. Corruption is good because it reveals the incoherence of a system. Okay. And so if you call yourself a Christian and then you go to a church and you find out your pastor has been embezzling funds, good. That's now revealed to you the incoherence of that system. Any system that has corruption within it is incoherent because it doesn't have an immune system sufficient to remove the corruption. And so look at Singapore. By the way, there are about less than 10 nations on earth that are pre-civilized. And we're going to actually talk about what civilization is in one of these videos because we have a civilizational matrix. So we actually use objective data from global systems to identify what is civilized and what is not. And these are obvious things that are objectively determined. And so it's not really hard to understand these things. But anyway, I'll give you an example. Singapore has a very, 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 very low corruption score, meaning the corruption there is very low. It's very, very low, especially during the time of Lee Kuan Yew. Now, why is that? Because they got rid of the people that were corrupt and he disincentivized corruption. So, what does that mean? The immune system of a nation like Singapore or some of the Nordic nations is such that it makes it impossible or difficult for corruption to flourish. So, think about a body, an ecosystem, a nation, any type of system. I'm a system specialist. That's what my doctorate is looking at that stuff. Any system that is easily corrupted is an incoherent system. Think about diamonds. Why are diamonds so hard? Because they have structural integrity or coherent structure. Their molecular structure is coherent. And so if you are in a church and there's a pastor embezzling funds, first of all, that person is not being paid enough, right? Number one. And so why would he embezzle funds? And then number two, the mental, the spiritual, the philosophical system of that church is incoherent because it's Christianity. You know, it's mainstream Christianity. It's a very incoherent system. And so it's good when you see corruption because it identifies a system that is inferior, incoherent, and one to be replaced with something superior, something more coherent. So that's why this church, the Coherent Church of Comprehensive Christianity, was created in the Apex Human Awakening movement. And one of our primary texts is, "Hey God, wake the fuck up. Bibleism, you're not supposed to know about the real life and the real you." And in this book, we talk about those sorts of things such as corruption. How do you get rid of corruption? Well, you create a system in which corruption is disincentivized. The United States is a profoundly corrupt nation, but it's not as corrupt as Egypt. Why? Because there are systems in place that help to penalize but also disincentivize corruption. But Singapore is less corrupt than the United States, and that makes it more civilized than the United States. And so corruption is a wonderful thing. If you spot it, if you identify it, then you've identified a system that is sick, that has a bad immune system or a bad immune response or an incoherent immune response. And then it's ideal to pull yourself out of that system, stop investing your time, energy, and thought into that system, and then reinvest your energy and thought into systems that are more coherent, that have better immune systems to protect against corruption. And so, give an example, if you go to many of the nations of the world and you look at the ones that have the worst um, stats, like the life expectancy is bad, babies die as soon as they're born, there's poverty rampant, lots of corruption, right? Because the people at the top, who are worms, feast and feed on the masses below them instead of providing incentives for their masses to grow and to improve and to get better. So you see, Northern Europe is much better about that. The Northern European nations, the Nordic nations, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, these are more advanced nations and they're more civilized than, say, some of the sub-Saharan nations, unfortunately, or some of the places out in Oceania, parts of Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Singapore, much more civilized, right? More civilized than the United States. God knows. Switzerland's more civilized than the United States too. That doesn't make these perfect systems, but they're more civilized. And so, because as a church we understand that civilization creation is the most important thing, then we understand that corruption is an impediment to that. And so we do our best to ensure that we don't have corruptions within ourselves and we do not contribute to systems that are corrupt. Now, if a system's corrupt and you're at the bottom of it and you're being exploited by that system, use corruption to your advantage to get ahead within legal bounds. Again, nothing said here is true. We are not claiming to have truth, but I'm just saying, yeah, shit, fuck it, I don't care. I just said it. If you're in a corrupt place, let's say you're in like Burkina Faso. Well, Burkina Faso is getting better. But let's say you're in Burkina Faso or something. God, what Nicaragua. Okay, you're in Nicaragua. It's known for corruption, right? And it's corrupt, and that's just how it operates. You have to understand that you can use that corruption with some integrity. Don't harm people necessarily, but you can actually use that to get ahead. And I've known people who've done that. That's how they got to the United States. They had friends and family in the government, whatever. They got some paper signed that, in a week that should have taken 6 months, they were moved ahead of the group. That happens, okay? But, ultimately what we want to move toward is systems that are incorruptible because they are so coherent. So let's see. There's a lot of people in here. All right. Hello, hello. Hello, love baseball. Good to see you. All right. All right. How's your day, Jackson? My day is going quite well. Quite well. Oh, yeah. Hello, Shy Millman. Welcome back. I hope you subscribe. And so corruption is, again, let me make this clear too. Like, again, we make it very clear we do not profess to have the truth. We are Christians that are comprehensive and coherent. And so we do not have the truth because we know that truth is within context. It only exists within context. Outside of context, there's no truth. And so with that understanding, C4 is, I know it's kind of a play on words. It's a coherent church of comprehensive Christianity. There's 4 C's. And so I just call it C4 for the short. That's what our designation is. We're an incorporated organization with 642.4 million tier 2 members. And so we're starting to make ourselves public. This is an old version of Christianity. I mean, I shouldn't say it's old. We're syncretic, and we are drawing on older Christian traditions, Christian traditions that existed prior to the infestation of Rome. Rome came in and was like, Jesus is Lord. You know, first they burned up all the Christians. So they killed us all. To some extent, we didn't all die. We just went and rose to power and quietly did all this stuff that I'm telling you in secret. That's what the secret societies were, the Illuminati, the, you know, all of these brotherhoods, you know, at the top of European royalty for centuries. We were them. So if you want to find our version of Christianity, you have to get into the deeper secret systems that are considered secret societies, Luciferian societies, that sort of thing. Prometheans, like real Prometheans. Look at the writings of William Blake, of Neville Goddard, of Milton, of some of the greatest minds of all time. Anton LaVey was one of us. And so um, this is a form of Christianity that's coherent, and it only appears at a time when humanity is reaching a state where it's pre-civilized enough to where this form of Christianity can return and we can actually start to reactivate civilization in the human story. So when you know, we do not have a dualistic view of the world. That was Persians feeding, you know, when the Jews were in, nah, let's do this. When the Jews were in Persia, when the he, well, the Israelites, yeah, it was Israelites were in Persia or were ruled over by the Medo-Persians. They adopted the dualism of the Persians. That Persian dualism transitioned later when the Hebrews, Greek Jews went into the Greek world. They brought that to the Greeks, and the Greeks intermixed that around with their paganism, beautiful paganism. And then the Romans adopted a lot of that, and then that's what Christianity adopted years later. Dualism is an attempt by a primitive society to understand a holistic nature, a holistic cosmos. And so we don't do any of that. So God, the devil, Satan, it's all the same for us. It's just a matter of finding out and discerning what is best for you to live a coherent life. All right. So we must see four. Okay, no, 642.4 million. 642.4 million. I had to check. Every once in a while, I have to check how many members. But those are tier two members. Those are tier two members. Tier one, we have three. We have five tiers. Tier one, tier two, tier three, tier four, tier five. Tier four and five are not accessible to the public. Tier one and two are available, but it takes some time to get to that point. The tier twos are where we have that large number. Anyway, yeah, Rome Church is pretty. Yeah, Rome burned Christian, then yeah, exactly. It mutated it, yeah, and funded a new Christianity, a false. Absolutely, the most coherent forms of Christianity you find in the Middle East or in Ethiopia, because those are the oldest forms of this post Christ Christianity. Um, it's really like Piscean Christianity. We're Aquarian Christianity, Promethean Christianity. So our form of Christianity goes back 24,000 years probably. And people say, well, Christian, Christ, Jesus, the idea of the Christos, Krishna, no, Christ christening, all of that goes way back. It's just the idea of the individual who realizes they are God, and then they live as God, as Jesus said. Jesus told us we are the gods. He said it point blank, quite emphatically. And again, Jesus didn't exist, but the allegory that the allegorical Christ in John, in the 10th chapter of John, says, "You are the gods," and he said it in Koine Greek, Theoiesti. He was just quoting the 82nd Psalm that says, "You are the gods." Now, it wasn't talking to people who can't conceive that; it was speaking to us, the apex humans, the 642.4 million apex humans, tier twos and above, that are part of our organization. So, um, you know, we understand that there's a remnant and there's a small number of people that are in the world that are actually going to express their humanity and live coherently. And those people are intended to be lords, ladies, leaders, gods, goddesses, sorceresses, witches, warlocks, whatever. You know, powerful, influential people in the world that shape humanity in a civilized framework. And to get a glimpse of what the future looks like as this form of Christianity is becoming ubiquitous. Look at Singapore, look at Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Japan. Those are good examples of where humanity is moving. China, no. A lot of people think, oh, we're going to a police state. We're not. AI is going to take over and rule your soul. No, it's not. It's just an option. It's not the solution. And so that's where we're going. And so it's just a question of are you going to be a part of it? And so that's what this church is all about. So anyway, corruption is great if you see it because it identifies a poor immune system. If you see it in yourself, if you see it in your life, boost your immune system. Make sure you have what you need. If you see corruption in the church, that's because their pastors aren't getting paid properly and they're not being picked properly. And also their system is trash. So anyway, that's enough talking for this. All right, stay Apex. Thanks for liking and subscribing. And just read this. I'm gonna get an audiobook out soon. This thing is friggin' outstanding. It's outstanding, guys. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. And it's very, very disruptive. I was in league with some very high level people, and I don't name them because they've already gotten in enough trouble for me still being alive. I'm still breathing, and they got in trouble for that. So I don't name them because they just don't need to suffer anymore. All right. Yeah, this is a great book, and I put out a lot of stuff in here that's not supposed to be known, and it upsets the apple cart. So you can get a free version. You just go online and read the free version. Hope to get the audiobook out once I get done. There's so many things that's going on right now in the church. There's so much expansion and growth. And it's just like so. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Stay Apex.